Evening to all the patriots of It's Your Tea Party in Marion Oaks, Florida. Make some noise! Make some noise! My name is Taylor Foland. I'm a volunteer team coordinator with the largest grassroots organization for national security in our country, known as Act for America, chaired by Brigitte Gabriel. Recently, I traveled to our nation's capital to speak at their national conference, AFA's national conference this year, AtCon 2017. I also had the opportunity to meet and hug this amazing woman. For those of you who are not familiar with Brigitte, Brigitte is a survivor of the 1975 Lebanese Civil War. She grew up in a small town in southern Lebanon, known as Marjayoun. Brigitte witnessed the death of her country's Judeo-Christian culture as a wave of Palestinian immigrants were accepted into Lebanon. The Palestinians and the Muslims in Lebanon in the 1970s teamed up with one another, and they put their heads together, and they formed what is known as the Arabic Lebanese Army. What followed was the complete and total destruction of Christian culture in Lebanon, as radical Muslim militants invaded her country, burying her under her own home as they shouted Allahu Akbar, and almost killed Brigitte in the process while doing so. ACT works on the national and community levels to pass legislation to prevent and limit the possibility of this scenario happening in the United States today. So what I want to do for you tonight, while I have you, is I want to go over 1,400 years of Islamic history. And I want you to buckle up, relax, and enjoy the ride. In the early 600s AD, someone by the name Muhammad founded a new religion in present-day Mecca, Saudi Arabia. The alleged prophet, we'll say alleged, was recruiting people for the first 12 years of the beginning of the new faith movement known as Islam. He was attempting to convert his immediate family and friends, and he was attempting to convert Christians and Jews into the newly established fold of Islam. To convince Jews and Christians to convert to Islam, Muhammad borrowed texts from the Torah and the Holy Bible, and what he did is he blended these texts into one to make it more appealing to non-Muslims, so they would convert to Islam. However, Muhammad was only able to convince his immediate family members and friends to join the new faith of Islam. And after those first 12 years, Muhammad was then expelled from Mecca. Muhammad then went on his famous Hajj in the year of the Hijrah to Medina. In Medina, hoping to spread the influence of Islam, Prophet Muhammad took his documents and texts to the Pharisees and the Jews, the Jewish theologians, and said, "Here, look at my documents. I'm supposed to be the last of the prophets, and I have received my revelation on Mount Hira from Archangel Gabriel." And what the Jewish theologians and Pharisees came back to Muhammad and said, they declared him a false prophet. This is when Muhammad turned on the Christians and the Jews and started to expel them and kill them in the name of Allah. From this point forward, Islam turned away from being a religious movement and then converted into a political military doctrine under the leadership of Muhammad. Muhammad started killing infidels. Muhammad started to wage jihad on the non-believers. Muhammad started raiding campaigns between Mecca and Medina, looting caravans across the desert. This is how Muhammad established and fortified the caliphate in the Middle East. Muhammad and his men would get all the goodies and all the riches and silver and gold from the caravan. And this is how the Muslim army became stronger and more influential and more well-equipped. There was a very important treaty known as the Treaty of Al-Hudaybiyah, which was supposed to be a 10-year truce between the Muslims and non-believers, aka Christians and Jews, pagans. Instead of following the treaty, Muhammad broke its tenets, started building up his armies, and then invaded Khaybar, which is a city in the Middle East. And he expelled the pagans out of Mecca. Then he commenced jihad in the Battle of Uhud and Badr, which allowed Muhammad to establish a military base from which he could conquer more lands from Mecca. And that is exactly what he did. Islam would spread as far east as China and as far west as Tours in France and Europe. Muslim armies were dispatched under the command of different caliphs to conquer new lands in the name of Allah and Muhammad. Islam invaded North Africa, conquering Christian land and then enforcing the protection tax known as the jizya. The jizya was a regular tax that was enforced on infidels. And if you did not pay the jizya, and if you would not convert to the fold of Islam, you were executed. The jizya was enforced by giving payment to a local sheikh or mullah in the Islamic Empire and bowing the knee to the local Muslim. This is how Islam gained its taxes and its power. From Morocco to Egypt, from the 8th century onwards, it was under invasion and under Islamic occupation, and Sharia was imposed regularly. Islam would continue to grow under its cruel socio-economic policies. And it would advance by the sword of jihad also. Muslims conquered the Iranian civilization and captured India, massacring Hindus in the process. So to give you some historical perspective on the campaigns and battles that Muhammad was waging on the infidel, I will list a few. Battle of Ejindin, 634 AD in present-day Israel. Battle of Jerusalem, 638 AD, which was a Muslim victory. Syrian campaign, 634 AD to 641 AD. Campaign of the Oxus River Valley, 637 AD. Egyptian campaign, 639 AD to 642 AD. The Battle of Mas, 654 AD. These campaigns would culminate when Muslim forces invaded France. Toulouse was first attacked by the Umayyad Caliphate in 721 AD. Then about a little over a decade later, under the Umayyad Caliphate, same caliphate, the Muslims attacked Tours in 732 AD. The Frankish and Burgundian forces were led by Duke Charles Martel against the Umayyad Caliphate commander Abdul Rahman al-Ghafiqi. The Muslim force was defeated and the advance of Islam was temporarily halted in Europe. Then, less than 20 years later, on the other side of the world, in China, China was being invaded by the Arab Abbasid Caliphate at the Battle of Talas against the Chinese Tang dynasty led by Emperor Huangzong. Then the First Crusade is launched from the city of Rome in 1099 as a reaction to Islam. All of this garbage and political correctness about the Crusades being launched because a bunch of Christians wanted to go over there and behead a bunch of Muslims is garbage. The First Crusade in 1099 was launched as a reaction to Islam to stop Islam. So the Pope in Rome, Pope Urban II, at the Council of Clermont said that we need to go help the Christians. We need to go help the Christians and get Jerusalem liberated. How can we sit by idly as Christians and watch our brethren slaughtered in the name of Allah and Islam? The result of the First Crusade was a Christian victory, but the Crusaders were only able to hang on to Jerusalem for less than 100 years. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, Saladin, recaptured Jerusalem and reimposed Islamic law or Sharia. And this is how Islam dominated in the Middle East from Jerusalem. This is the time when Richard the Lionheart would launch a new force of crusaders. The result of the Second Crusade was basically a stalemate. Islamic occupation was retained in Jerusalem, and Acre went to the Christians around surrounding areas in Jordan and different parts of the Middle East. This back and forth between Christianity and Jerusalem and Islam would continue for the next 918 years. Think about that. 918 years they were fighting back and forth with Islam. Muslim armies would continue to advance on Western civilization. The caliphate would continue to expand under the direction of different caliphs. And with every new territory that was conquered, Muslims would continue to combat all other faiths that would not assimilate to theirs. Fast forward, past the Dark Ages, into the Renaissance, Spain is still under Islamic occupation. Is everyone still with me? Everyone still with me? and the ethnic Spaniards were routed to the north. The Venetian navy in Italy is under constant bombardment and battling with the Ottoman Muslims on the Italian peninsula in the 1400s. In 1482, the start of the Renaissance in Europe, the Spanish embark on a campaign against Islamic forces on the Iberian Peninsula. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella launch their armies to fight, and they fight all the way down to the de facto capital of the Caliphate in the west, Granada. Granada is then freed, and Isabella and Ferdinand would then launch Christopher Columbus' new voyage to the New World. More conflicts between Islam and Christianity would occur, and I will list them. Battle of Belgrade in Serbia, 1521. Battle of Mohawks in 1526. First Siege of Vienna in 1529. Battle of Preveza, 1538. Great Siege of Malta, which was defended by Christians. Charles de Hospitaire of the Knights of Hospitaire defended Malta and won against the Muslims. Battle of Lepanto, 1571. Battle of Katyn, 1673. Battle of Vienna, 1683, Battle of Senta, 1697. Do y'all get where I'm going with this?
Keep going.
Islamic militants, and especially Ottoman Muslims, would continue to combat Christianity and were beaten every time. They were beaten back every time by Christians. Turkish forces would continue to attack Venetian sea vessels in the Mediterranean and on the Adriatic. Islam grew more and more. It took until September 11th. That date sounds familiar, very familiar. September 11th, 1683, at the gates of Vienna, for Islam's conquest on Central Europe to stop, and it was halted. Ottoman Turks had invaded Central Europe, capturing outposts along the way, and at one time even occupying Bratislava. The Christian king of Poland, Jan Sobieski III, led the largest cavalry charge in history against the Muslims to push the radical Muslims out of Central Europe, to get them out of Central Europe, pushing them all the way back to Serbia, Belgrade. When our nation was newly formed, our third president, Thomas Jefferson, was the first president to authorize an overseas action. The action was to overthrow the rogue Muslim regime of the Pasha in Tripoli. The intolerant attitude of Islamic culture towards all other cultures would continue all the way to present day, now in 2017. The rise of ISIS is just another wave of jihad. It's what it is. When a liberal or uneducated person wants to say that these are extremists, that they have misinterpreted Islam, or that they have distorted Islam in some way, it is completely untrue. That is complete nonsense. What ISIS is doing now is nothing different from what Islam and Muhammad had already done. We have seen terrorist attack after terrorist attack after terrorist attack after terrorist attack after terrorist attack. Nice, Brussels, Berlin, Stockholm, London, Paris, Orlando, San Bernardino, Las Ramblas, Barcelona, Moscow, Istanbul, among others. We have also seen the rising tide of Islamic immigration in Europe, the erosion of free speech, and inaction of hate speech laws, crippling EU immigration quotas, mass migration, and open borders in Europe that have absolutely destroyed countries like Sweden and France. In Britain, there are Sharia courts operating in direct violation and in direct treason to British law. There are over 25,000 jihadis operating in London alone. And allegedly, according to the British press, the killer of Fusilier Lee Rigby, who was killed by a radical Muslim, is reportedly converting prisoners to Islam in prison. This is how they get their converts. So, we are witnessing the history of Islam being played out right before our eyes again. The recent terror attack in New York City makes very clear the need for extreme vetting procedures in our country. The radical terrorists of Foland-History gained entry into our country through a diversity visa lottery program headed by Senator Chuck Schumer of New York. Sapav was an Uzbekistan national, which has no real functioning government, no real functioning system of government in Uzbekistan at all. Safolo means sword of Allah in Arabic, and not one person questioned him from our intelligence apparatus about why he was here. They did not question if he was on here on work in the United States or why he wanted to come to the United States. The signs were there, and our intelligence community missed them. The scary part about this case is that Safolo Sapav was living in Tampa, Florida. Tampa, Florida. That is very, very close to us, my friends. Very close. Before he moved to Paterson, New Jersey, and started to attend the Omar Mosque, which he attended regularly. And what did the fake news do right after the terror attack? They came out and they said, Allahu Akbar means God is great. Allahu Akbar means God is great. Oh, this had nothing to do with Islam. This had nothing to do with his mosque that he attended. Nothing to do at all. Fake news. It's fake news. It's what it is. He was in our state, and the federal authorities picked up no cues that he was here. This is a travesty. Our founding fathers are rolling in their graves, with innocent people dying in our country because of political correctness and spineless politicians who are unwilling to call a spade a spade. We have had enough. No more unvetted immigration from failed states. No more lottery visa programs. And travel ban now. No more rogue judges who value political correctness over national security of our country. Enough. The Muslim Brotherhood policies of Barack Obama are over. Finally, we have a president in the White House, Donald J. Trump, who puts America first. And with our president, Donald Trump, the laws in our country are being enforced. Speaking of Muslim Brotherhood, this leads me into my next topic. Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR. Raise your hand if you know who CAIR is. Raise it high. CAIR is the arm of the Muslim Brotherhood operating in our country. Recently, I went to CAIR's 17th annual banquet in Orlando, where I called out Lion Linda Sarsour for being the Islamist that she is. CAIR was founded by Omar Ahmed and Nahad Awad by using funds in part from the Holy Land Foundation, which was an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest terrorism financing scheme in our country, in Richardson, Texas. CAIR's tactics of intimidation and legal warfare are well known. CAIR has been associated with terrorist groups and terrorists. One of CAIR's associates, Sami Amin Al-Arian, was convicted on providing material support to the Islamic Jihad for Palestine, a U.S. designated terrorist organization. U.S. District Court Judge James Moody called Al-Arian a, quote, master manipulator at his sentencing hearing in Tampa. CAIR also employed a jihadist by the name of Bassam Aldo Al-Habi. Al-Habi, an associate of CAIR's political organizing machine known as United Voices for America, was founded in part by another jihadist, Ahmed Badir. Al-Halabi defended ISIS chopping off people's hands in a panel called Islamophobia at Florida Atlantic University on May 23rd, 2016. How nice. The event was sponsored by another terrorist organization, the Muslim Students Association. Al-Halabi assaulted a delegation team at Tallahassee, including the chairman of Americans Against Hate, Joe Kaufman, a Jew, by coincidence. Ahmed Badir was former executive director of CARE Tampa and former communications director for CARE in our state, Florida. Ahmed Badir led a day of action in Tallahassee, Muslim Day, on February 28, 2012, where he went on an anti-American, pro-Islamic rant and threatened legislators in our capital if they pass bills that protect America. Badir then makes the false claim that Act for America is a hate group and then immediately cites the Southern Poverty Law Center, the largest hate organization in America with unlimited funding, by the way. CARE employs a woman by the name of Rasha Mubarak, who was spotted at Al-Quds Day rally in Orlando in 2014, where she said to a friend, "Uncle, quote, Uncle, don't talk to them, they are Jews." Many CARE associates participate in pro-Palestine, pro-Hezbollah demonstrations and have made many pro-Hamas statements. Her friend then proceeded to call Hamas, or Hezbollah, he called them freedom fighters. Now let that sink in for you. Jawar Josadullah Badran was a former CARE Florida correspondent who stated that on camera, quote, "Hamas is not a terrorist organization." On March 1st, 2008, video source CARE Watch. You can look it up on YouTube. Badran was joined by his colleague, Atif Ali from CARE, when he said this statement. One of CARE's media correspondents, Christina Abraham and Abraham Hooper, both of them have gone routinely on national news outlets and lied about CARE. CARE is a stealth jihadist organization. That's right, I'll say it. It's a stealth jihadist organization operating in our country, and it's got to be stopped. The goals of CARE are clear. The implementation of Sharia across America and to Islamize America using our court system and our Constitution against us. CARE's tactics of legal warfare and intimidation must stop. The Muslim Brotherhood policies of Barack Obama are over. To CARE, I have this to say. With our President, Donald J. Trump, in the White House, your days are numbered. If you think Americans are fooled by your false, phony Islamic propaganda, you need to think again. Finally, after 8 long years of Obama's anti-Semitic policies, we have a president that stands with Israel. Americans will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish state of Israel and the Jewish people. So where is all this hate coming from? Where is all this jihad coming from? All the answers you need can be found within the Quran. In the Quran, there are specific quotations that call for the murder of non-believers. Specific quotations in the Bukhari, Sahih, that say that you should kill ex-Muslims if they leave apostate. Surah 551 of the Quran states, quote, "Take not the Christians and the Jews as your friends, for they only help themselves." Surah 3:3 of the Quran claims that the Gospels of Moses are a gift from Allah, and that Jesus Christ was a messenger of Muhammad, and the Virgin Mary was a gift from Allah. There is absolutely no comparison between Jesus and false prophet Muhammad. No comparison at all. Jesus never had 12 concubines, never killed anyone, and preached love and tolerance and love towards thy enemy. Muhammad used his invention of Islam as a tool of convenience and waged jihad on non-believers after he was declared a false prophet by Jews in Medina. The Treaty of Al-Hudaybiyah was the point from which Islam left its roots as a religious movement and then shifted to a theocratic military doctrine and ideology. So when a Muslim tries to debate you on Islam, use this history as the truth about Islam and nothing but the truth. Use their own history against them. I could give you Quran quote after Quran quote after Quran quote after Quran quote after Quran quote. But I will let you read the Quran and find out for yourselves, if you haven't already, if Islam is a religion of peace. And I think many of you will agree with me. And you can determine yourselves whether it is peaceful or not. Go to your local library like I did. Pick up a copy of the Quran and read it and read what is in it and then make the determination. The argument all boils down to this. The United States was founded on Judeo-Christian values. We have instituted man-made laws inspired by the Holy Bible. We will not, cannot, and never will submit to Allah. Never. No surrender. Too often, radical Islamists like Linda Cockroach Sarsour get away with preaching hate because everyone is afraid. And no one calls them out for their wanton statements on Sharia and their call for jihad against our president. Enough is enough. If you don't love our country, our culture, or our people, then leave. The left has become intolerant and unwilling to reason with anything they disagree with. We continue to see social justice warrior football players take the knee on the National Football League when playing our national anthem. You know what these football players ought to do? They ought to get down on both knees and thank God that they were born in this country with the freedoms and opportunities it affords all of us. Never in America will we apologize for standing when our national anthem is played. And never will we apologize for standing for our great American flag. Act for America has over 13,000 volunteer activists working on the ground in their communities, working with their legislators for strong national security that protects America's borders and our families. We have 750,000 members who receive regular updates from Brigitte and Act for America and the team in Washington, D.C. We have passed over 12 federal bills, 2 federal bills in the 111th Congress, 3 federal bills in the 112th Congress, 3 bills in the 113th Congress, and 4 bills in the 114th Congress. And you better believe this Congress, we are pressuring them to finally declare the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. The very recent Islamic terror attack by Saifullah Saipov is exactly why we need extreme vetting procedures in our country. We cannot gamble with America's national security. Local legislation is perhaps the most important work we do at ACT. ACT for America has helped pass 84 state bills relating to national security, 13 American laws for American courts bills, which limits rogue judges wanting to implement whatever they can, signing off on whatever they can from the bench. These states include Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington. Act for America has also passed 17 anti-BDS bills, state bills listed here. Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Florida, In 2016, House Bill 16-1284. Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, and Texas. Private First Class Andy Long. Now y'all remember this. Andy Long, who was murdered by a radical Islamist in 2009 outside of a military recruiting center in Little Rock, Arkansas, was killed, and since then, ACT has put its influence behind Andy's law, which requires stricter penalties for terrorism. These states include Arkansas, Florida, passed 2017 House Bill 65, Kansas, Louisiana, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. ACT has also helped pass laws against female genital mutilation, a barbaric practice that should never go on in America, ever. ACT has worked with legislators locally to pass these laws. Out of the 9 state statutes, 8 were passed under Obama. I think that's telling. For more information on these federal and state bills, please visit www.actforamerica.org/federal legislation and www.actforamerica.org/state legislation. ACT helped push the Secure Border Act of 2011, sponsored by Rep. Candace Miller, Republican from Missouri, if I read that correctly, as federal law. Visit www.actforamerica for more information on that. If you would like to become an activist and affect change in our nation, the application process is very easy and very fast. I did it, so can you. Visit www.actforamerica.org/activist. It only takes literally 5 minutes, and you get regular email updates from Brigitte. And if y'all know anything about Brigitte, she is on fleek on YouTube, and she gives it to liberals really good, because she grew up in Islam and knows what it's all about. To become an official member of ACT, we have packages to fit any budget. The classic membership is only $25 per year. You will receive a silver lapel label in the mail with your purchase. ACT for America's motto is freedom, security, values. The left's motto is resist, occupy, and political correctness. The choice could not be more clear, my friends. If you believe in strong national security and in strong borders, become an activist or a member today with ACT for America. The forces of globalism and alt-left liberal policies are waging a war on America. Elites in Washington, D.C., and on fake news, mainstream media, are pushing and are actively pushing a pro-Islam, pro-open borders, and pro-politically correct agenda. Which is why, on this day, exactly 1 year from now, on November 6, 2018, we will be voting at the polls to drain the swamp. This is our president. This is our country. This is our culture. This is our land. This is our time to shine. We are still the shining city on a hill that Ronald Reagan said we were. My fellow Americans, my fellow patriots, together, we will make America strong again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America safe again. And together, we will make America great again.